So we are Australia's newest silver producer, and we're the newest silver producer in New South Wales, and we're out in far western New South Wales, about 85 k's south of Cobar, where we take the company name from. The usual disclaimers are there. I think they all read the same. There's a couple of names that might change to protect the guilty parties, but we are very clearly in the business of making forward statements about what we're doing and where we're going. Just touch on the company corporate profile for a second. We have 235 million shares on offer, about 3 million options and 3 million performance rights. The share price at the moment is about 56 cents. So we have a market cap of $132 million, and we have $12.7 million in the bank. That's the share profile there, or the price profile, and it follows a fairly traditional pattern as you move through from exploration through to development. The only thing that I would say in the back end of that profile, the volatility relative to the market and everything else has had such a big influence that it's hard to say right now what a reasonable profile looks like. And I know clearly from some of the work we've done in the last 6 months that the equity markets are a difficult place to be, and equities generally, with all the uncertainty that's going on in and around the world, are flowing back into the share prices of a lot of companies on the Australian market right now. But offsetting that, I think, and I'm obviously a big silver bull, and I think that that story is about to get a whole lot better. And I'll touch a little bit as we go through this on the silver market and what I call its bipolar behaviour, both on the supply side and the demand side. So that's the share register. We've taken a very deliberate approach to this in the company to developing and creating shareholder value. And our approach was to take a fairly significant parcel of land, recognise the most likely opportunity with a bit of serendipity and good luck to create a project which would generate cash and then allow us to take that forward, and having taken it forward then and generating the cash, then to continue to develop the exploration ground that we've got. And I'll touch on that as we work through the presentation as well. So what is it that underpins the company? Well, it's this resource and reserve base here, and clearly the resource and reserves provide the store of wealth, or the store of value, for our shareholders, and it's up to the management and the directors of the company to ensure that we extract that value for shareholders. So we have a probable reserve of 10.1 million tonnes at 80 grams a tonne, a little bit of lead, giving us 26 million ounces of silver. That underpins the current operation. It also provides us with the opportunity to think about expanding the operation to in fact extract the resource and reserves at a faster rate, and it enables us then to dovetail the resource and reserves with the exploration ground we have around us, which is highly prospective and we know has significant potential for more silver. So that's a great position to be in. This is in fact a greenfield deposit. While others drilled holes in it, I guess we were the first to realise that there was in fact a silver story to be told here, which was largely driven by the improving silver price, but certainly you needed to connect the dots together. You needed to take some technical assumptions on whether things might work or might not, and having done that, we could see a project and we moved very quickly to develop it. So I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of where we're up to operationally, talk about some of the things we see already as improvement opportunities which are dovetailed with some decisions we took earlier in the feasibility study that give us a bit more flexibility, then to talk about some of the the longer term expansion options we were considering, and then touch on the exploration upside. So this is a shot a couple of months ago of the Manuka pit. It's one of 4 pits that will form the initial operations. So it's being mined as we speak. We're also stripping waste from the boundary pit, which is the next one to the south. And in the September quarter, we produced 129,000 tonnes of ore at a grade of 72 grams a tonne and 1.4% lead. Of that material, the higher grade material goes as mill feed, the lower grade material goes to stockpiles, and it's mined, processed as on an incremental tonne, or it'll be processed later in the mine schedule. The treatment plant, you see the loader feeding into the feed hopper up to the log washer, and then a shot looking back from the stripping circuit back to the leach circuit. That's all running pretty well. We've had obviously our fair share of commissioning issues. The major one being in the quality of the clays, or the clays that we're processing. They're a lot more confident than we expected, so we are generating a oversized material at a higher rate than we anticipated. And we've got some flow sheet changes that'll fix that very quickly, but the log washer is running at rates of 145 tonnes an hour, which is in excess of what we need to meet our production targets. We've produced in excess of 7 tonnes of silver so far, and we commenced continuous shift operations early in August. So we've been in a very neat ramp-up situation. The silver is very high quality, greater than sort of 98% at the moment. So, and that silver gets shipped off to a refinery in Switzerland. This is this gives you a sense of where we've come from. We poured our first bar in July. We produced about just over 20,000 ounces in August, 60,000 ounces in September, and just under 120,000 ounces in October. And our sort of nameplate capacity is around about 200,000 ounces a month. So we're about 60% of the way there, and if you can see from that ramp-up curve, we should get there in the next couple of months. The things I mentioned earlier about needing to improve a couple of things, the clay ore is requiring additional treatment, and the solutions we have are complementary to the short-term expansion plans. What we've done so far to improve the throughput and the reliability of the log washer is to mobilise a higher crusher, and that's improved the log washer performance and allowed us to lift the rates to 145 tonnes an hour. There's some high pressure water sprays coming to remove some of the sticky clay material as it comes over the vibrating screen, and we've taken an option on a ball mill to debottleneck the current circuit and to enable the earlier treatment of limestone ores, which in the mining schedule we have currently says that we'd stockpile those for 2 years before we process them. There's a cost involved in that, and we have to mine additional clay ores to maintain the production schedule. So the installation of the mill and the crusher will in fact allow us to mine those limestone ores sooner and reduce the amount of ore that we have to mine along the way through. So the expansion options are to incrementally expand the existing flow sheet to 1.2 to 1.5 million tonnes per year from the current rates of nominal rates of 800,000 tonnes per year. Long term, it's about expanding the production to maximise the resource extraction and value, and there's a study which has started which will take us about a year to do, and then once that's done we'll know exactly what we will have available to us, and that will also allow us to dovetail the exploration program that's underway or about to start to add additional resources and reserves to that equation. And the great thing about this is the short-term and long-term options are very consistent with each other, so we don't get any parking of capital or any it's a similar strategy to Argentina. Can you start somewhere and go somewhere else and maximise the use of capital to begin with, that's clearly the option that's open for us. So the expansion options are underpinned by the reserve, and the reserve was recalculated in January at a silver price of $30 an ounce. That increased the inventory of silver from 14 to 26 million ounces. And the interesting thing about the ore body is the better grade material is available first, so you can mine it like a banker would mine it. And I'm glad to see Matthew from the CBA is here today, and he was fairly happy about that. And the current mine plan is based on a 5-year schedule at average grades of 97 grams a tonne with a 2.5 million ounces rate per annum. So we'll revise the mine plan to reflect the current reserves and investigate the expansion options to maintain or increase the silver production. So there's a $2 million study required for that, and it'll take about a year. I'd just like to touch on the exploration upside now, and I mentioned earlier about the opportunity to increase the silver resources and silver reserves. That is not the only story here, and Vlad David, who's in the audience tonight, knows this area quite well, and he knows that there is significant base metal prospectivity in and around the western edge of the Cobar Basin where we are, and we have had some exploration success already, and clearly we've got some base metal blue sky both at Wonawinta and at our listing project at the Ridge, which we also want to do some work on this year. So I'll just give you please excuse me, I'm not a geologist, so if anyone's got any technical questions on the geology side of things, I might have to refer them to Vlad, but and he might have to send me the bill afterwards. But I mean, I don't really need to stress the prospectivity of the Cobar field. I think the most important thing for us is we have about 900 square kilometres of tenement, and we've got 70 kilometres of strike of prospective basin bounding structures, and that is very important. That's a very important geological feature in this part of the world. So our exploration objectives are to extend the mine life, to increase the silver output, and grow a project portfolio around new discoveries. And there's a $2 million exploration budget for this year to pursue that. This financial year, and the drilling really gets underway early in the new year. The good thing about the reduction in temperature in the resources side of things at the moment is there are lots and lots of drill rigs available right now, so that's good. So in terms of the resource expansion, we have a number of areas that are prospective, and I'll just touch on a couple of them. This one, whoops, hang on, wrong thing there. Where's the pointer? These are all geochemical anomalies here, and these are very close to the existing resource, and you see that there's quite a big area of interest on the eastern side of the southern end of the boundary resource there, and we've got this little pothole resource here, which we discovered as we were doing the sterilisation drilling for the plant. But I'll just touch on this one here. These holes that are across there were done by CRA a long time ago, and they were chasing the base metals, and they intersected the clays that we see as the host mineralisation for the silver deposit, and didn't assay them because they were chasing the basement, and they got the basement and just left that there. So they were logged, and the logs are very, very useful pieces of information, but that material wasn't assayed. And the reason why that's significant is that our water comes from a bore field we discovered just down here, and we drilled some holes up in this area here looking for extensions of that water source, and we didn't find it. But we did intersect the mineralised clays, and we intersected Wonawinta style clays in here and sent them off for assay, and we got 2 intersections at 40 grams a tonne. So So there's, and all these areas around here are similar in geochemically to the deposit as a whole. So we think there's fantastic upside there, and that's what the exploration program will test. The other thing that's interesting to note here is that there's on the western side of the Manuka pit here, we have a couple of holes, not particularly deep, about 120 metres, which have got very high grade, good thicknesses of reasonable grade lead zinc sulphides with quite high silver credits. So there's potential for a sulphide story in that side of it, and we've also got some other mineralised holes on the western side further down. So there could be, a series of sulphide stories that poke out of that as well. So that's the near mine stuff, these holes here are typical of the holes we've seen in that sulphide zone. So they're quite thick and quite good silver grades, and as I said, they've got lead and zinc credits as well. So is there any other silver around? And there certainly is. We've got Smith's Tank, which is only a few kilometres away, up in this area here. We've got some pretty good intercepts in there, 3 metres at 80, 3 metres at 78, 12 metres at 54, 4 metres at 420. It's a different style of mineralisation, when I say different style of mineralisation, that might not be totally correct. It's a different style of mineralisation to our sort of typical Wonawinta, but what the parallels are and what the differences are, we don't really know yet, but a whole lot more drilling will shape that position a whole lot more clearly. It is interesting that the geochemical footprint is slightly different from a mineral composition point of view, so there might be something different happening there, but there's clearly quite a bit of silver floating around there. The other things that are interesting here as well, from a silver point of view, is there's junction, which is over on the Dusty Tank fault over here. There's a geochemical anomaly there. We've got the Donati silver resource here. That was our original silver discovery, 2.7 million ounces, which is needs quite a bit more exploration work to fully define it. But that prospect actually subcrops 5 metres from the surface, and that was the project or the prospect that actually got us very much interested in silver, and that was in fact the thing that led us down to Wonawinta. So, and the other thing that led us to Wonawinta and silver was the fact that every mineralised intercept we had across the 100 or so kilometres of strike of this whole exploration tenements, every single one of them has had silver in it, anything from sort of 4 grams a tonne up to 400 in some cases. And so there is a big silver system, if you can call it that runs through that 100 k's almost up to the end of our ground. No. The clay here is I think it's what's left of the limestone. But this primary stuff is in limestone. So there's significant silver opportunities in a 20-kilometre radius from the plant, and some of them are quite close. What I'd just like to do now is touch on the base metals prospectivity at the ridge, and this is this here. That was our first ever deeper hole targeting some IP over a very big geochemical anomaly. Gave us a 6 metre intercept at 10% zinc equivalent, and at that point in time the share price went crazy. And we followed up a lot of other IP across that whole thing and got very good high-grade mineralisation, very variable, copper, lead, zinc in any combination and permutation that you like. But the other holes that we followed up with generally didn't generate any economic width, so that caused a major rethink about what we were going to do. we thought the story in and around here was in fact still very interesting, but a whole lot deeper and a whole lot more expensive to explore. And at the time, this is back in 2007, we didn't have any money, so and we'd done the work on Donati, and so we pursued the Wonawinta Silver Project, and so the rest of that's history. But that's where we got to there. But we're now ready to go back and have another look and follow it up. I won't touch on that. That's there's a lot of. I mean, what that says is there are a number. That's a geochemical profile, and you see the hot spots are the lighter blue areas, and you can see Wonawinta down to the south, and then you can see the Donati and Ridge prospects just in here, and there's a few others here. But our primary focus in the next 12 months in terms of base metals is around the Ridge. We have completed both reinterpretation of gravity, VTEM surveys, drill some deeper holes in that area, quite deeper holes. We think that the main game there is probably starting at around the 300 metres. Below that, the fault structures again are significant. The sort of feeders that are working to create the mineralisation here are all in place. We're pretty excited. And we've still got some other prospects that got some work to do on them. These are much earlier stage than anything else that we've got. So that's pretty much the story on the exploration. I just want to touch a little bit on the silver. And I guess the first thing I'll say about silver is people still have this sense that silver and photography, or silver equals photography, and photography's dead, so silver's dead. And that's not the case. The industrial use of silver is growing quite rapidly. The other thing about the industrial use of silver in these circumstances in today's times is that there's very little of it recycled, whereas in silver there was an enormous amount of recycle. And so the silver market is growing, and in fact the industrial use of silver is probably growing at a faster rate than the new mine production, and that accounts for about half the silver that's produced, and all that silver either gets locked away in solar cells or something like that. It's going to consumer products and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And so I think from an industrial use point of view, the silver story is alive and well, but it is a bit bipolar. It's on one hand it's an industrial metal, on the other hand it's a store of wealth and a precious metal and a hedge against inflation. So, but it's bloody volatile, and if you're of that mind, I guess you can ride it and do whatever you like. But it is volatile, and that makes it difficult to get a sense around what you want to do. So it's bipolar on the supply side. On the demand side. It's also and there's a lot of silver is going into ETFs. It'll be interesting to see what happens if all those ETFs, all the holders of those ETFs, if they're paper holdings or whether they're metal holdings, if they all walked in the door and said, "I'd like to have my silver, thanks," that'll set a rocket under the silver price. But it's it's a fact of life, and again that might have something to do with the volatility. And there's obviously a precious metal sense. There's a very strong link between the silver price and the gold price. And I was telling this earlier on that if you were competing, and the geological ratio gold to silver or silver to gold is 15:1, and the current price is 50. So if you looked at it in a geological sense, then silver is relatively undervalued to gold. And in fact, if you were competing in the first Olympics in Athens in 1896 or whenever it was, if you had won a race or a prize, you would have got a silver medal, not a gold medal. So, and the Romans thought silver was pretty good too, but I don't think it was because of the monetary value. They actually liked it because if you stored your wine in it, it wouldn't go off. But killed the bugs. But it's that link exists, and it's pretty solid. Just one thing here. What we've done here is just compared ourselves on a enterprise value per reserve ounce against typical similar silver producers in the US, and to me it tells a story. We're at $6.47 an ounce. The average of the US producers is 16, and the median is 10. You can argue about the relativities of the various markets, and I think that's a fair case. But I think there's the takeout for me in all this is that the North American side of things, or the market in North America, has a far greater appreciation of silver than we have here in Australia. But it's our job to close that gap, and we'll work pretty hard to do it. Well, it only matters to share price. Yeah, it only matters to share price. So just to summarise, we're delivering to the strategy. We're ramping up to 2.5 million ounces per annum. Cash costs, by the time we get through the things that we've got to get through, will be $13.50 an ounce, and we expect to see that by the June quarter of next year. We've got some improvement opportunities in the short term. We've got expansion opportunities in the medium and long term, and we're aggressively pursuing those. We've got exploration upside in silver and base metals, and we're pursuing those pretty aggressively. And we're very leveraged to improving silver prices. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.